NBA season tips this month, and LeBron James said he initially felt skepticism regarding the COVID-19 vaccine, but ultimately decided to get it for the well-being of himself, his family, and his team. Lakers president of basketball operations and general manager Rob Pelinka said last week that he expected his entire roster to be deemed fully vaccinated by opening night of the regular season mid-October. While the King got vaccinated himself, he's not trying to make that decision for anybody else. Take a listen.
You guys should know me. Anything that I talk about, I don't talk about other people and what they should do. I speak for me and for my family, and that's what it's about.
But you don't think the issue is important enough for someone with your stature to speak out on it?
We're talking about individuals' bodies. We're not talking about something that's, political or racism or police brutality and things of that nature. We're talking about like people's bodies and well-beings. So I don't feel like, for me personally, that I should get involved in what other people should do for their bodies and their livelihoods.
Stephen A., I'm going to start with you. Does LeBron need to be more vocal when it comes to NBA players getting vaccinated?
I don't think he needs to be more vocal now.
Okay.
But what he did yesterday, he should have done a long time ago. Let me be very, very clear. What I'm saying is that guys can get very, very slick. And they can parse words and what have you. We all know who LeBron James is. We all know how significant he is. For those of us who don't know or refuse to recognize it, he certainly has not hesitated to remind us. He is a businessman extraordinaire on multiple levels. He is wealthy, not rich. He is on the Mount Rushmore of basketball, one of the greatest athletes to have ever graced this earth. He is an individual that has been an incredible role model on so many levels, and he's to be applauded for all of that. Mm-hmm. And he took the liberty to take the bull by the horn and be front and center on a plethora of issues that affect our community.
LeBron also gave me an exclusive tour of his brand new I Promise school. It is a joint venture between the LeBron James Family Foundation and the Akron Public School System. Not only is tuition free, so are uniforms and transportation for every student who lives more than 2 miles away. Every student gets breakfast, lunch, and snacks. College tuition is guaranteed for everyone who graduates. There is a food pantry for families. Parents can get their GEDs and job placement services. And because of how important a bicycle was for young LeBron in escaping dangerous parts of his neighborhood, every student will receive a free bicycle and helmet. It is an ambitious project with an even more ambitious future. Take a look at our tour.
LeBron has been and has chosen to be front and center on a plethora of issues. And this notion that it's a privacy matter, it's about your body or whatever, well, over 6 billion people worldwide have taken the vaccine. And so when we look at it, certainly you don't have to, and we understand that, and you shouldn't be in people's face condemning them if they don't. But what you need to do is do the research as expeditiously as you possibly can to make sure that you're informed as quickly as you possibly can be so you can disseminate whatever message you feel needs to be disseminated, as opposed to choosing this to be quiet. Whereas you had so many things that affected our community. People were dying in our community. And I felt like anybody that had a voice should have done their research sooner than later and made sure they made a decision and move forward and at least be open about what you choose to do. And then you back out of it. I think he did that yesterday. He said, it's a personal choice. After doing my research, me and my family are vaccinated. Boom, we got it now. Vaccine's been out for damn near a year now. And we just heard from LeBron James yesterday. My issue is, and my only issue is, it should have been sooner.
Ted Cruz, of all people, tweets out, "I've never said this before, but I agree with @KingJames," his Twitter handle. And so all the alignments are exactly opposite on this. He's getting attacked by the left, and he's getting praised by the right for it's for the second piece. I mean, getting vaccinated. I don't think anybody opposes you getting vaccinated except for the hardcore anti-vaxxers. But the fact that he won't get behind saying everyone should do it. Your thoughts on what this cultural moment means?
Well, it's very interesting because meanwhile, your pizza guy in New York City has to tell you to do it, or he can't let you stay and eat your slice of pizza in his pizzeria. But LeBron James gets to not say anything, right? It's sort of interesting that we've put the onus on small business owners to enforce vaccination at their restaurants, at their art galleries, at their, any other kind of business that they have where people come indoors. In New York City with the with the vaccine mandate, the business owner has to ask for vaccination. I think what LeBron James is saying is absolutely right. I would just hope that could apply to more people than just LeBron James. I don't think it's anybody's business who else gets vaccinated. Again, I got vaccinated. I feel secure in my vaccination. I don't care what other people do. I don't care if other people are unvaccinated because it really does not affect me. I am vaccinated. And if you believe in the vaccine, if you trust in the science of the vaccine, why do you care if other people are vaccinated or not?
Well, he's not pro-mandate. That's very obvious. And one of the things that you hear in the press is that the people who are not pro-mandate or, heaven forbid, not pro-vaccine are all Republicans. And I don't think LeBron James is a Republican based on what I've heard him say in the past. And there's also a significant holdout population within the Black community when it comes to these vaccines. A fact the media and the Democrats just will not acknowledge. They want it to be all Trump, MAGA, Patriot, America hat wearing folks in, Louisiana and Mississippi. It's not true.
It's not. Just personal experience, the people that I know that are not vaccinated in New York, very few of them would be considered Republicans at all, much less Trump supporters. It really runs the gamut. People are afraid. They maybe think that they're in good enough shape that they don't need the vaccine. I know a lot of young people in their 20s and 30s who are like, I don't feel like I need to be vaccinated for something that's not a risk to me. And then the real cohort that I know that is not getting vaccinated are people who have had the virus before. And once again, other countries accept previous infection as evidence of having antibodies. But in the US, we largely don't, except our State Department does. When you come in from another country, you can either show vaccination or proof of infection. But for some reason, that's the only place that is permitted.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can't. If you want to fly back into the US, you can show proof of prior infection because it makes sense. It means you beat the virus, you have the antibodies, you're in the same place, maybe even better than a vaccinated person. Why not? But in New York, for example, you can't show evidence of prior infection to go to a restaurant or to go into a museum or something. And what you're seeing is all these healthcare workers who are now forced to get vaccinated. The reason that they don't want to get vaccinated, they're not anti-vax. They're all saying, I've had this already. I've been infected. Why do I need to be vaccinated now? And the truth is they don't.
Well, it's kind of funny because if it's not your job, that means that some of those folks that would be coming to see you play are not going to come see you play because they can't get in. See? So it is kind of it's not your job to tell people what to do, but you can suggest that you figured out that nobody grew a second head or a tail when they got the shot. I mean, I don't know why that would be hard for folks.
I know. Well, back in March, he said, that's a conversation that my family and I will have. Pretty much keep that to a private thing. Look, when you have a public platform, when you are a public person, really, it's a privilege, but it's also a responsibility. Yeah. And privacy doesn't come along with all of the privilege that comes with being a public person. You're earning a ton of money. You've got fans. People follow you. People love you. It's the conversation we had about Nicki Minaj. Yeah. When you have a public platform, it's because people love you. Yeah. And people support you. And people pay to see you. And people tune in to see you. You have a responsibility to those people that made you to share what you know and to try to get them to do the right thing. So I'm sorry. I wish we had private lives. We don't. We are public people with a lot of privileges, and that's the responsibility that comes along with it.
Yeah, I agree. I think, LeBron is so popular. I mean, so popular, they call him King James, kids look up to him, people look up to him, and I was really deeply disappointed that he said that, just because he has such a large platform. And I try to go back to the law, and I think in America, we talk about the personal freedom so much, because it is really the foundation of our country. But what we have to realize is that as citizens, because we do prioritize individual freedom, but we don't have the right to harm our colleagues and our colleagues' families with that individual freedom. We don't have the right to harm our colleagues and our colleagues' families with that individual freedom. We don't have the right to harm our colleagues and our colleagues' families with that individual freedom. We don't have the right to harm our colleagues and our colleagues' families with that individual freedom.
But cases in vaccinated people do happen. The CDC estimates about 35,000 per week among 162 million people in the U.S. who are vaccinated. Now, the agency released a case study today on the major outbreak we've been hearing about in Provincetown, Massachusetts, that began around July 4th, where among 469 cases in Massachusetts, 74% were fully vaccinated.
Comes that great responsibility. So you're right, LeBron, to, a healthy life is not greater than another person's right to a healthy life. And that's really the message that I think needs to
I think we all
come
agree
out.
on this one. I mean, people do look up to LeBron, literally look up to him. He's very tall. And so, it's important for someone like him. He has a lot of influence. Kareem understands that, I think. Look at how much I know about basketball players.
You do, Joy.
Unbelievable.
So good.
Well, I think especially as an athlete, as an elite athlete, those are people that their body is their instrument. We make people insure when they're boxers, their arms, So I think the fact that he's an athlete, I think that he's Black is also important, because there was some hesitancy in the beginning with the community. So having someone like him, and I don't think, this is where it bothers me when people talk about the privacy. We can't be safe if we can't ask people in a room or where we're at, please let me know. I think absolutely people that are unvaccinated should be running around saying, not vaccinated, beware. Please let me know. I think absolutely people that are unvaccinated should be running around saying, not vaccinated, beware. Please let me know. I think absolutely people that are unvaccinated should be running around saying, not vaccinated, beware. Please let me know. I think absolutely people that are unvaccinated should be running around saying, not vaccinated, beware. Please let me know. I think absolutely people that are unvaccinated should be running around saying, not vaccinated, beware. Please let me know. I think absolutely people that are unvaccinated should be running around saying, not vaccinated, beware. Please let me know. I think absolutely people that are unvaccinated should be running around saying, not vaccinated, beware. Please let me know. I think absolutely people that are unvaccinated should be running around saying, not vaccinated, beware. Because that's not fair to everyone else who's running around and they might be assuming you're vaccinated. And I also like to remember when we talk about personal freedom that it says life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So getting your life is ultimately the first thing we should be able to have. And the fact that this is a public health crisis threatening people everywhere, the life should be put ahead of the liberty.
But there's a certain selfishness that you're encountering now with these people who are unvaccinated. They're not going to respond to what you just suggested, which is I am unvaccinated, because
they
don't
often, by the way, know that it's going to get a pushback, and they don't tell anyone, which is unethical.
Well, they're confusing this personal freedom, right, with public health. I think that's what they're confusing. Another person that came up recently that I think people that are anti-vaxxers and certainly a lot of people on the right are holding up as this example of personal freedom is Orlando Magic's Jonathan Isaac.
Jonathan, Josh Robbins with The Athletic. What is it about the vaccine that makes you hesitant to get it?
I would start with I've had COVID in the past, and so our understanding of antibodies, of natural immunity has changed a great deal from the onset of the pandemic, and is still evolving. I understand that the vaccine would help if you catch COVID, and you'll be able to have less symptoms from contracting it. But with me having COVID in the past and having antibodies, with my current age group and physical fitness level, it's not necessarily a fear of mine. With my current age group and physical fitness level, it's not necessarily a fear of mine. With my current age group and physical fitness level, it's not necessarily a fear of mine. With my current age group and physical fitness level, it's not necessarily a fear of mine.
When you get the actual virus in the wild, you're getting the full virus. So rather than you taking one class, you're getting all the classes. The body is now given all of the information about this virus. Then it can have a full response, building up the full antibodies, white blood cells, etc., so that if you come into contact with the virus later on, you will have a higher likelihood of fighting it off. And to validate that point, Dr. Rochelle Walensky, the director of the CDC, stated that those who took the shots early on from December up until now have a higher likelihood of getting sick and have a higher likelihood of not being protected from the new variants, while those who did not take the shots but who did contract the virus in the wild have a higher likelihood of fighting it off and have a higher likelihood of fighting off any other new variants because they have an increased natural, also known as innate, also known as God-given immunity.
When you are looking at the immunology of this, when your body is exposed to the natural virus, your immune system can be that much more activated because it has to deal with the entire virus. And it has no base or foundation of which to deal with. We know that the spike protein is probably the most important protein because that's the one that latches onto our cells. That's why the vaccination is necessary. You are correct. In people who had SARS-CoV-2 infection, they do have a more diversified response as it pertains to variants.
Taking the vaccine, like I said, it would decrease my chances of having a severe reaction, but it does open me up to the, albeit rare chance, but the possibility of having an adverse reaction to the vaccine itself. I don't believe that being unvaccinated means infected or being vaccinated means uninfected. You can still catch COVID with or without having the vaccine. I would say, honestly, the craziness of it all in terms of not being able to say that it should be everybody's fair choice without being demeaned or talked crazy to doesn't make one comfortable to do what said person is telling them to do. The craziness of it all in terms of not being able to say that it should be everybody's fair choice without being demeaned or talked crazy to doesn't make one comfortable to do what said person is telling them to do. The craziness of it all in terms of not being able to say that it should be everybody's fair choice without being demeaned or talked crazy to doesn't make one comfortable to do what said person is telling them to do. The craziness of it all in terms of not being able to say that it should be everybody's fair choice without being demeaned or talked crazy to doesn't make one comfortable to do what said person is telling them to do. Yeah, I would say that's a couple of the reasons that I would say I'm hesitant at this time, but at the end of the day, I don't feel that it is, anyone's reason to come out and say, well, this is why or this is not why. It should just be their decision. And, loving your neighbors, not just loving those that agree with you or look like you or move in the same way that you do. It's loving those who don't.
He's rejecting this anti-vax label, although he remains unvaccinated. And what he was saying is, I'm not anti-vax, but he had COVID. So he's like, I contracted COVID, so I have natural immunity, and I'm not anti-science, but because I have these antibodies, I don't need to be vaccinated because I'm in danger of now having side effects from the vaccine.
This is when people need to actually do their homework. This is when people need to actually do their homework. This is when people need to actually do their homework. This is when people need to actually do their homework. This is when people need to actually do their homework. This is when people need to actually do their homework. This is when people need to actually do their homework. This is when people need to actually do their homework.
But cases in vaccinated people do happen. The CDC estimates about 35,000 per week among 162 million people in the U.S. who are vaccinated. Now, the agency released a case study today on the major outbreak we've been hearing about in Provincetown, Massachusetts, that began around July 4th, where among 469 cases in Massachusetts, 74% were fully vaccinated. CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky saying the findings from Provincetown were a pivotal reason behind the updated mask guidance this week, that even fully vaccinated people, if infected, can carry high viral loads and potentially be contagious. But that report concluding perhaps the guidance didn't go far enough, suggesting that even areas without substantial or high transmission might consider expanding their prevention strategies, including masking in indoor settings regardless of vaccination status. And Shep, a lot of people are raising questions about whether we're going to start seeing stronger measures from the federal government. And in fact, Dr. Walensky was just asked about this on Fox News tonight, whether they're considering mandating the vaccine on a federal level. She said, quote, "That's something that I think the administration is looking into." Shep, that's a reversal from what we've been hearing from the administration. In fact, just from a White House spokesperson today who said that is not on the table. Just from a White House spokesperson today who said that is not on the table. Just from a White House spokesperson today who said that is not on the table. Just from a White House spokesperson today who said that is not on the table.
I wouldn't demand to be mandatory, but I would do everything in my power, just like I don't think masks have to be made mandatory nationwide.
Can we mandate vaccines across the country? No, that's not a role that the federal government, I think, even has the power to make.
We cannot require someone to be vaccinated. That's just not what we can do. It is a matter of privacy to know who is or who isn't.
No, definitely not. You don't want to mandate and try and force anyone to take a vaccine. We've never done that. We don't want to be mandating from the federal government to the general population. It would be unenforceable and not appropriate.
Joining me now, Boston Celtics center Enes Kanter, who has been working tirelessly to convince his fellow players to get their shots. So let me just ask you, Enes, and by the way, it is so great to have you on the show. He is saying, look, I want to keep this private. You know, this is a private matter. But to you, is it really a private matter whether or not players that you are playing against up close and personal are vaccinated?
Right. Thanks for having me. I mean, obviously, everyone has a choice to make. But in this pandemic, our choice actually can hurt others. And we are playing a team sport. Just think about all those unvaccinated players going to go against the players who are vaccinated for 48 minutes. And it's not like we are playing ping pong. We are playing a contact sport, it's basketball. So 48 minutes, they will be sweating and, you know, they will be on a whole game. So I don't know if the vaccinated players will be comfortable to go against unvaccinated players. I don't know if the vaccinated players will be comfortable to go against unvaccinated players. I don't know if the vaccinated players will be comfortable to go against unvaccinated players. I don't know if the vaccinated players will be comfortable to go against unvaccinated players.
Johnson says the fun was taken out of basketball by the steady drumbeat of criticism from his fellow. They were telling reporters they were afraid to play with Johnson, that despite AIDS experts saying the risk of transmitting the disease on the court is infinitesimal, they were scared. Leading the pack, Johnson's colleague on the U.S. Olympic Dream Team, Karl Malone.
If I get in a collision with a guy, it don't have to be Magic. It can be Joe Smo. But the fact of the matter is, if you got the AIDS virus, it'll be hard for me to play as hard as I'm capable of playing. The fact of the matter is, if you got the AIDS virus, it'll be hard for me to play as hard as I'm capable of playing. The fact of the matter is, if you got the AIDS virus, it'll be hard for me to play as hard as I'm capable of playing. The fact of the matter is, if you got the AIDS virus, it'll be hard for me to play as hard as I'm capable of playing.
So I don't know if the vaccinated players will be comfortable to go against unvaccinated players. So I feel like we need to definitely touch that point for sure.
To be clear, you don't believe there should be a mandate, right? But do you think if there's not a mandate that these unvaxxed players can be persuaded?
I mean, obviously we have to respect everyone in the locker room and respect their decision. But like I said again, we are playing a team sport, right? And some of the players are living with their, parents and grandfathers and grandmothers who are old. So if one of us can catch any kind of a virus, we can pass it to those, who are very old, and they could be in trouble. So I feel like in this pandemic, we cannot just only worry about ourselves, but we have to worry about everyone else around us, especially if you're playing a team sport.
Given how high the stakes are, why don't you support a mandate?
I mean, like I said again, at the end, in America there is a freedom of speech, religion, and people obviously can do whatever they want, but they need to be definitely smarter on their decision, because obviously we are athletes and we have a huge following. So there are so many people out there, especially so many kids out there, are idolizing us and following our social media and everything. So I feel like we should definitely be a role model, an example of good for sure.
LeBron James finally revealed just recently that he is vaccinated, but he declined to call on others to do the same. Do you think players like LeBron James, who are so high profile, so looked up to, have a responsibility to protect not only his fellow players, but also the black community, when we know the black community has been disproportionately impacted by this virus, by COVID?
When I heard it, I was very disappointed, and it's ridiculous. Obviously LeBron James, he's one of the face of the league, and he should be the first one to go out there and say, listen, everyone, I got the vaccine, and I'm encouraging everyone, my community, everyone, basketball fans, non-basketball fans, all the sport fans are just going out there to get this vaccine so we can save other lives. So when I heard that, I just couldn't believe it. But I hope he can educate himself about this vaccination and inspire and encourage other people around him.